this is part two of our Healing Spices series. We could do many, many parts, but we are going to stop at two because you'll already have quite a number of really helpful spices to use for your cooking, whether savory or sweet. And you'll find that all of them have incredible health-giving properties as well. So you can also practice making herbal teas, for example, or decoctions that will help you when you become ill or if you just need to have a little boost for whatever reason. I want to introduce you as well to the Masala Dabba. A dabba just means a box. It's this stainless steel box that you see. It comes with a lid. And so within the box, you have all of the little cups that allow you to keep your spices in one place, really handy. The little spoon even comes with this box. You'll find it in an Indian supermarket easily. And the spoon measures about a half a teaspoon. So you can pretty much know at any time how much you're measuring out. It's not exact, but it's close enough. And anyway, cooking doesn't have to be an exact science. It's not like baking. And so we're going to start at the top where we see the coriander. This is my box. This is what I keep in it. I keep mustard seed as well. You'll see below the mustard seed, there's turmeric, and I pre-mix it with black pepper because turmeric is activated by black pepper. It also requires cooking in fat, so some kind of oil or ghee. In order for the body to absorb it, and it's especially for the curcumin, which is the active ingredient in turmeric, which is not easy for the body to absorb. And so always managing the balance between black pepper and turmeric is it's easy if you combine them in advance. You just put about a ratio of sort of 16 parts turmeric to 1 part black pepper. So it really doesn't have to be a lot of black pepper. And if you mix it in advance and keep it there in your spice box, you don't have to think then later on about adding the black pepper. Of course, you can always add black pepper after cooking for taste. And then I keep my other turmeric separate. So there are times when you want to have turmeric for other reasons, and I don't always add pepper to all of my turmeric. So I'm always keeping some separate, but the one that I use most every day is already mixed with black pepper. So right below the turmeric, you see ginger, and I also have fennel seeds. And then above the fennel is the cumin seeds. And so, in fact, for the CCFT, all of the seeds that I need are also really easy to hand. So that's the cumin and coriander and fennel tea. That's so good for digestion and eliminating ama. And so you can easily make a batch if you're taking it daily, either to make it as an infusion or to make it as a decoction. And also for the fennel, I just take a little pinch at the end of a meal. I'll take maybe up to a half a teaspoon or so, and I chew on the fennel. And that allows me also to digest even better. It calms gas and it allows the body to digest really well. Freshens the breath as well. So it's really handy when it's right there. In the middle where the spoon is my particular masala. The blend of spices is known as masala and not curry. In India, curry is just the leaves. They're called curry. And those leaves are specific to a particular number of recipes. It's not ground into powder. So we would use the curry leaves in certain recipes, a little bit like we use a bay leaf in Western cooking. Although the difference is that you can actually eat the curry leaves and you can't eat the bay leaves. So that mixture, that masala, can change according to your taste and according to what it is that you're using it for. But the basic masala that I always keep on hand has turmeric, cumin, coriander, black pepper, ginger, and a pinch of cinnamon. And the cinnamon gives it a lovely sweet flavor that's not strong. So you want just a little bit of cinnamon compared to the rest so that it doesn't overwhelm the recipe. And that's for both for savory as well. Cinnamon works beautifully for savory recipes. And then we have black mustard seed. And this is quite an extraordinary thing. Black mustard seed is stimulating to agni, so the digestive fire increases. It relieves coughs and respiratory problems, eliminates worms and parasites. It improves circulation, clears the sinuses, and it relieves pain. It's good for your appetite. It builds better digestion and absorption of nutrients, and it clears the gut of poorly digested food and or mucus, especially kapha disorders. And this, of course, is caused by low agni. So the ama that is created in the gut is from excess vata or kapha, depending. And so black mustard seed is a great remedy for that. It relieves gas, bloating, and constipation. And when you grind it to a fine powder, it can be used in a foot bath. And so as soon as you feel a little bit under the weather, you just pour hot water into a bucket and add some black mustard seeds, about a tablespoon, into a couple of liters of water, and let your feet soak for a while. This is also excellent for arthritis and swollen joints, which are aggravated by the cold and the damp. So both as a food and also as an external application, it works really well for arthritis. Nutmeg also clears ama. We see that with almost all of the spices, that they clear the gut, that they heal the gut, and that they eliminate ama. Nutmeg is also very good against worms and parasites, and it dries up excess kapha, especially the kapha that's found in the stomach. If you notice that you have mucus in the stool, you can take nutmeg, and for that matter, you can take the mustard seed, because it will really help to clear out that mucus that's building up. We definitely don't want mucus to be traveling down through the digestive tract, because that prevents the good absorption of nutrients. Nutmeg is relaxing and rejuvenating, and it's also an aphrodisiac. It's excellent for calming vata. And it's really good if you have difficulties falling asleep, and it helps you to stay asleep as well. So it's a heart tonic, and it alleviates muscle, heart, and joint pain. And especially if you're feeling agitated, or you're finding yourself a little bit scatty and you can't concentrate, or if you have restless leg syndrome, then take some nutmeg, especially before going to bed. You can put a pinch in a small glass of warm milk, for example. It increases blood flow, so blood circulation, and it's good for infertility and low libido, or impotence and irregular or painful periods. It also calms prostate problems and incontinence and excessive urination, which might be due to high vata and kapha. So that would be, for example, when there's a pre-diabetic condition or even a diabetic condition, nutmeg will really help, because often excessive urination is due to too much blood sugar. Nutmeg stimulates agni. So the great thing is that when you're unwell and you have, for example, dysentery or diarrhea, it's both helping with agni, but it also slows down the diarrhea and dysentery because of the effect it has on the gut. So it's excellent if you have a fever with diarrhea. And so good to travel with nutmeg if you're going to countries where you're not used to the food. It relieves indigestion, liver disorders, colitis, and worms, and it alleviates coughs, mucus, and rhinitis. So any kind of sinus problem will really benefit from nutmeg. And that, in that sense, you can take it in some kind of a tea or some kind of decoction with other herbs and spices to relax the lining, or to heal the lining of the sinus, and improve your immunity as well. So you have to just be a bit careful when you're taking any kind of sedatives or hypertensive, meaning high blood pressure medication, or any antidepressant medication, because nutmeg has those properties already, and it can actually be problematic to combine them. You would have to be taking a substantial amount, though, for that to become truly problematic. It is narcotic at high doses, so over 6 grams a day, which is an awful lot of nutmeg. You'd be sick of the taste of it before you could probably overdose on it. But it can dull the mind, and it causes hallucinations and dizziness and heart palpitations. So just take it in moderation. As with all of the other spices, the benefit is accumulated over time. It doesn't have to be in one dose. So cardamom reduces ama as well, like the others. It's a great one for clearing the gut. It's a brain and nerve tonic. It clears up sinus congestion, is diuretic and aphrodisiac. It's really good for vata because it's calming and it eases tension, anxiety, lethargy, and nervous exhaustion. It improves memory and concentration and stimulates appetite, digestion, and nutrient absorption. It relaxes muscle pain and spasms, and it's useful in digestive problems that are related to stress. So I offer this to people as one way of helping them out of burnout. Any kind of debility or real exhaustion is benefited from cardamom. It can be taken in food and it can be taken as a decoction or a tea that you can make a simple infusion with a bunch of spices, making sure that cardamom takes priority as a treatment because it will really bring you benefits. It makes you feel really good as well. Cardamom has an uplifting nature, and so very good if you're feeling also a little bit down. It counteracts excess acidity and it prevents drowsiness after eating. Sometimes when we either eat incorrectly or we eat too fast or we eat the wrong food, then there can be this feeling of real heaviness, and cardamom can help with that. So you can just take a pod of cardamom and chew on it. It clears cold and damp kapha conditions like mucus and sore throats. It's really good if you have colds or coughs or asthma and chest infections. It strengthens the heart and circulation, and it increases energy. So it's really useful for UTIs, for incontinence, and for bedwetting. It's also accessible for children, so you can give this to young children from 2 years of age. Take it in moderation in cases of excess pitta, because it is also a warming spice. And especially if you have gastric reflux or ulcers or gallstones, and if you're pregnant or breastfeeding, just eat it as you would in your normal diet, but don't take it in any excess quantity. Clove clears toxins from the gut. So much like the other spices, it gets rid of ama. It helps balance dysbiosis in the gut as well. So it really works with the microbiome to bring the best bacteria and try and eliminate the bacteria that are unhelpful. That's really good for bowel infections. It's also really good for teeth. So if you have any kind of tooth problem, toothache, for example, or swelling or problems with the gums themselves, just take one clove and chew on it. And you can just move it around the mouth, and everywhere that it comes in contact with the mouth, you'll find it has a kind of a numbing quality. So after a few moments, you can either spit it out, or it is perfectly okay if you also swallow it. This is really good if you have any kind of dental pain and you can't make it to the dentist, or if you just feel that there's something happening under the surface of the gums that you really aren't sure of, and at the first sign of any potential infection, start chewing a clove. It also reduces swollen glands and other lymphatic congestion. It's anti-infectious, rejuvenating, and useful for UTIs. It clears congestion, relieves fevers, infections, coughs, and respiratory problems. So that's really great to have all through the winter. It purifies and increases breast milk. So much like fennel, you can combine the two and make a kind of a decoction or some kind of tea as a remedy. And of course, it relieves pain and spasms, so directly in the mouth if you're chewing one, but also throughout the body if you're eating it. It's warming and stimulating and increases blood pressure, energy, and vitality. It relieves impotence and stimulates libido. Clove reduces kapha and vata because of its pungent and bitter taste, and it reduces pitta by its cooling and anti-inflammatory effect. So it's tridoshic. It stimulates agni without aggravating pitta, which is very welcome, because often to stimulate agni, we also ever so slightly stimulate pitta. And so it's a great balancer, all in all, that should be kept in lots of different recipes, especially in the winter. Star anise is a wonderful spice. It's one of these flavors that is often kind of hidden in other mixtures, and it's the one flavor that just adds a certain special taste to a lot of combinations. It contains anethole, which also is where aniseed gets its flavor from. But anise or aniseed is not related to star anise. They're two very different plants, two very different botanical families. So even if they both have that slightly licoricey flavor, they're not the same. Star anise is antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, antifungal, and antimicrobial. It contains shikimic acid, a strong antibacterial and anti-influenza treatment, so really good for these days. It's used as a component of Tamiflu that in the isolated components that they use, they've extracted this shikimic acid and they add it to the flu vaccine called Tamiflu. It's potentially also anti-cancerous and it helps shrink tumors. Commonly used all across Asia. It's originally from Asia. It's a part of the Chinese 5-spice blend, and it's often added to Indian masala chai and garam masala. Garam masala means spicy or hot masala, as well as traditional European stews and mulled wine. It's also in spice cake. A little goes a long way as it can overwhelm other tastes. Licorice is sattvic, which means that it's very calming and balancing. It's nourishing for the brain. It improves vision, memory, hair, and skin. It soothes irritation and inflammation, especially in the mucous membranes. And it eases sore throats, dry coughs, bronchial congestion, asthma, and chest infections. It's extremely helpful for digestive and endocrine problems. Licorice reduces excess vata, pitta, and ama. You should avoid it during pregnancy, or at least have it in very small quantities, and in cases of hypertension, so high blood pressure and excess kapha. So licorice will cause water retention in excess and also retains sodium. So those are kapha symptoms. Kapha tends to hold on to water or fat. And so because of its sweet nature as well, kapha should avoid too much of it. An adaptogenic, much like ashwagandha, it's restorative and rejuvenative. And it has this amazing quality that it will actually enhance the action of other herbs and spices that combine with it. So wonderful to add into a combination for healing tea, for example. It gives you resilience, and that gives you especially a boost if you are, again, suffering from any kind of depletion or burnout. Licorice combined with cardamom is a wonderful tea, for example, to have every day as a way of countering burnout, that mental and physical stress that might be experienced. And it increases vitality and is an aphrodisiac. You can also get licorice as an extract, and it also has these great benefits, of course. And it also, in whichever form you take it, helps with menstrual and menopausal issues. So it eases constipation and also protects the liver from toxins and infection. It supports the detoxing function of the liver, and it binds to toxic chemicals and carcinogens to draw them out of the body, which is a process called chelation. We saw that already when we looked at coriander leaves, which have the same kind of function of chelation. Licorice lowers cholesterol, enhances immunity, and relieves arthritis and skin problems. It's anti-allergenic. It's excellent for hay fever, eczema, conjunctivitis, and asthma. And whenever you might need to withdraw from steroids, so if you've been taking corticosteroids, this is a good solution to help you relieve the body of that abrupt stopping, because it has a similar effect. Papaya seeds are amazing as well. Next time you get a papaya, be sure that you eat the seeds. And the seeds that you don't eat, then you should scoop out and separate, rinse them off, and dry them. Ideally, dry them in the sun. And if you don't have access to a place to dry them in the sun, then just put them in the oven on really low heat for a few hours and let them thoroughly dry out. They're anti-inflammatory. and they reduce joint inflammation, pain, swelling, redness, and they're really great for arthritis treatment. They're antibacterial, antiviral, antifungal, and antioxidant. They detoxify the kidneys and help with liver regeneration. They help heal wounds and reduce swelling. They're good for the heart and control blood pressure. And papaya seeds, either fresh or dried, will kill parasites in the intestines within days. They're rich in antioxidants and soluble fiber, which in fact is true of many, many spices. The soluble fiber content is one of the things that helps them do that job of clearing the gut. And they improve digestion, eliminating unhelpful bacteria like E. coli, Salmonella, and Staphylococcus. And all of that is great if you have IBS or any other kind of bowel issue. So this is also something to keep in mind when you're traveling, as it's a really fantastic pharmacy in a fruit. Papaya seeds also help clear the skin because of that purifying action through the liver. And they're very rich in calcium and protein, and it helps to build bone and muscle tissue. So you combine the fruit and the seeds and you've got a fantastic combination, but even still, just the seeds alone will give you enormous benefits. So both the fruits and the seeds contain vitamins A, B, C, and beta carotene, and they improve skin and eye health. The seeds can be eaten raw or dried and ground into a powder. So once you've sun-dried them or dried them in the oven, you can keep them whole until you need them. And you can either put them in a pepper mill and grind them as you need them, or you can just take a little bit, like a teaspoon or however much you need, and just grind it with a mortar and pestle. They can be added to food like spice. So you would put that in wherever you would want something like black pepper or something just a little bit tangy. The fresh seeds are pungent, so they have a really strong peppery taste and they're quite bitter. But that's offset by the sweetness of the fruit. And then when they're dried, they're less pungent and bitter, but with a slightly sour and astringent taste, a kind of lemony, citrusy taste. So you take them in moderation, except therapeutically, when you're doing that maybe for a few days to get rid of parasites. But if you have a papaya once or twice a week, there's no harm at all. When you eat the seeds, probably a tablespoon is more than what you'll need. And then the rest you can set aside and dry. And of course, our old friend garlic is powerfully stimulating, rejuvenating, and immune boosting. It helps heal bone and nerve tissue and prevents and treats bronchial problems. So it's mentally and emotionally strengthening, but can actually increase irritability and impatience. So pitta types should watch out, or if there's a high pitta at the moment, if you're feeling a lot of heat for whatever reason, then avoid garlic for a few days and keep your diet simple. It stimulates Agni, so it's great for digestion and clears Ama. And it especially clears Ama by encouraging sweating. So you get hot and your body sweats the garlic out. And so it's not just through the digestive tract, but through the skin as well. And this is why when you eat garlic, it smells very strongly on the skin. It also helps to lower cholesterol and reduce blood clotting. It's not recommended raw, especially in high quantities for pitta. And it can be really grounding, so that's very good for vata. But if you are practicing, for example, meditation, or if you're in a spiritual domain, then you probably don't want to eat garlic because of that stimulation, which tends to then lead to this heaviness and mental dullness. So definitely something to keep in mind for health purposes, but not for yogis. And salt is really important, obviously, to the diet. And so having quality salt is really important to your health. At the very top of this picture, you see black salt. And it's black, particularly before it's ground. But once it's ground, it tends to take on a brownish pink color. But you can actually see that it comes in a darker charcoal gray when you see it as an actual rock. It's really pungent. It has a very unusual smell, this kind of sulfury smell, and a slightly smoky flavor. So it adds a distinct taste. It's really good in lassis, for example. If you're taking a salt lassi, you can put the black salt in. Unlike other salts, it actually has a cooling effect. So it's really good for pitta dosha. And it's great at relieving acid reflux and digestive issues or bloating and cramps. So obviously you don't want to take a lot because you shouldn't have a lot of sodium. But if you're using it as a way of spicing your food, it'll be fine in terms of these benefits. If you are, for example, just before eating, if you take a little bit of salt, just a pinch of salt, and put it in the mouth, and then let yourself digest that before eating. This will really help increase the digestive fire. You can also add salt of any kind on top of a finely sliced piece of ginger, fresh ginger, and then you add to that just a little couple of drops of lemon or lime juice. And with the salt, you take the whole thing in your mouth, chew it, and then swallow it, maybe 15 or 20 minutes before you eat to really stimulate Agni. It's lower in sodium than other salts, which is one of the reasons it's more cooling. It's actually a rock salt and it's mined in the Himalayas. So its color, like I said, doesn't look the same depending on how it's made. I only have the powdered version. And another pink or Himalayan salt is also from the same region. That's the Punjab region of either Pakistan or India. And that rock salt is perhaps more common, more familiar to us, as this Himalayan salt has become really popular in the last few years. And it gets its color from iron oxide, and that makes it quite heating compared to other salts. It's not great then for high pitta conditions. So it also contains essential minerals like magnesium and calcium and potassium, much like all other natural salts. And it's uncontaminated by modern pollution. So just as black salt is, no pollution, because it was actually formed and then sealed in the earth billions of years ago in the Precambrian age. So when the seas dried up, they left the bed of salt under the crust of the earth. So the mines are actually about 1.5 kilometers underground, and so they've never been in contact with modern pollution. On the contrary, French sea salt, or what's called Celtic salt, or salt from Brittany, also contains trace amounts of minerals, all salt does, including more magnesium and less sodium than other salts. It's important to buy really good quality salt and know where it comes from, because wherever it's coming from, it is going to absorb the pollution of whatever water it's been in. So just know where it's coming from. There are really good salt beds in Brittany where they actually associate the salt with seaweed to try and combat the ocean pollution. So if we look at actually how to use spices, we want to be really clear that the recipes, when they tell you step by step how to process the spices, are actually going to give you the best benefits. So if you're using spices from a traditional point of view for healing, as well as good nutrition, I suggest that you take your inspiration from Indian recipes or Ayurvedic recipes and not from Western recipes, which will not necessarily know how to process the spices and use them a little bit differently. As a general rule, if you prepare your spices correctly, you'll get more therapeutic benefit. You'll also get more taste. The taste will be more complex, and that taste seeps through the entire dish. So you add the spices at the beginning of cooking, and you either prepare them in heating by heating ghee, for example, or oil, or you add the preparation that you've made separately to the food near the end of cooking and you blend it all together. You'll notice that in the two versions of khichdi, those two options are there. So whichever works for you, you do. Either you prepare the spices right off the bat and then add the ingredients and do everything in one pot, or you prepare the spices separately in another pan and add it later. It's entirely up to you. Spices added at the end of cooking will add aroma, but won't affect the complexity and subtlety of the food and will offer fewer health benefits. So roasting the spices is especially important if you need to use them as a powder. We're roasting them in ghee to prepare a recipe immediately, but if you want to conserve some spices as a powder, you'll first want to dry roast them and then you can grind them up. And that's especially true of the smaller seeds and those spices that you want to bring out the most flavor of. So you do this for just a couple of minutes in a small pan. Take a small quantity so you're not overdoing the spice. You want to kind of make it as you need it to keep it as fresh as possible. And then once that's been done, you just take take as your cue either the smell or the changing color of the spice. You really don't want to cook them. You just want to dry them out and heat them. Once that's done, you transfer that to a grinder or use a pestle and mortar and grind them yourself. And then try and use that immediately. Use that for whatever recipe you're using, or at least use it within a couple of days. And you'll find that when you have fresh spices, you don't need very much. You'll get really great benefits, and you'll just be amazed at the tastes that you get.